baron is a mass murderer and a polygamous leader who had people killed for disobedience or questioning his authority. This clip is not about the murders. It's about the economical foundation of his and other polygamist groups.
I wanted to go back to the entitlement. I think that all these people figure that because, and we were told that we're God's chosen people and that we deserve it, and they would actually bring up the stories about the Israelites that went and got all the jewelry, and from the people before they fled, you know, they borrowed the jewelry and never brought it back. Like they were entitled to it. They were God's children and they deserved it. So they would say, well, whatever we can get out of the government, we deserve it. And that we couldn't feel guilty about it. They called it a blessing, just a blessing from God. They prayed to God and He came in the guise of a welfare check.
A lot of them say that this nation owes them because of what they did to Joseph Smith, which I find kind of humorous because they openly acknowledge they do not belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and never had. But they still have the blaming and the claiming.
They're trying to get you to pay for what they want, was done to Joseph Smith.
They want the early Mormonism to be responsible for what they're doing, and they're entitled to be paid for it by the government for all that suffering, but they openly admit they do not belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, nor will they obey their rules and stop living polygamy.
Well, I don't feel that anybody is responsible for my actions other than me.
Right.
And I feel that I may have made unhealthy choices because of the brainwashing and whatever went on in my life, but I'm an adult today, and I can choose to have my life go where I want it to and have my dreams fulfilled, which I have done. And I just tell everybody, I don't care where you have been or what you have done, it is never too late for you to stand up and say, I value, I'm worth something, and I will fulfill my dreams.
Are you familiar with the polygamist that was so notorious before Cody Brown? His name was Tom Green.
Oh, absolutely. He was married to two of my nieces.
Are you aware that Tom Green took his ladies aside and actually gave them courses on how to steal from the government, how to get all the government benefits they possibly could?
Well, I don't know. I didn't hear that one, but I know that they were doing it.
These are all documented in the books, polygamy books, that are written by John R. Llewellyn, the investigator on polygamous crime. The reason I point that out is because Warren Jeffs had the same modus operandi in taking from the government. As a matter of fact, I think he got the blue ribbon. He even got money from Washington, D.C. for Homeland Security.
Oh, isn't that nice?
And of course, that's the big problem that Winston Blackmore faces now. So, bleeding the beast means what, Irene?
Bleeding the beast means that you can get every doggone penny and dime, nickel and dime, the U.S. government, and use it to your advantage because you are God's most worthy people on the face of the earth, and by golly, you deserve it.
And you not only deserve that, if people don't believe the way you do, they're what?
They're apostates, and they even deserve death, and they, like Warren Jeffs, have promised certain people death that'll come upon them. They try to frighten them because he's a prophet and tell them what's going to happen to them.
So what we have here with these cults is nothing except an extreme narcissistic behavior that enslaves other people.
Well, I think when people can face their fears, we all grew up with fears, but we need to face our fears and ask them, oh, is this really true? Is this what it is? Is this good for me? Is this what I want out of life? You know, I never did believe that God was going to allow me to have any of my wants fulfilled. But I found out I can have anything I want. I'm a proven thing of it. If somebody had told me that I'd be a New York Times bestseller, and that I had written books and I had done what I have done, that I'd go out and give lectures and travel and do as I've done, I would have laughed at them. This little girl that was so afraid to speak up, that never felt validated, that didn't think that I was worthy of anything. And for the world to have opened up to me, but it's because I opened up to the world.
So what you're telling us is that it isn't what has happened to you in life that decides who you are, but it is the decisions because of and perhaps in spite of what has happened.
Well, back then it was just like a mule. I allowed myself to be hobbled and to believe all this brainwashing and everything I had, and thought that there was no other way to do it except just keep my mouth shut, follow the brethren, do as they say, and that they would lead me into happiness. And all of a sudden I found out that they had run my life into the ditch. And then I'm crying and saying, how did this happen? It happened because I allowed it. And we can't allow it. We have to stand up and say, I value, I'm worth something, I will make something out of my life, and I'm proof that we can.
It's amazing that these young girls don't realize that these men who can't be responsible and won't be responsible for their own lives are going to take the responsibility of yours.
Exactly.
Yes. And yet, as adults, we know that no one can be responsible for us except us. It's not their right or their job.
Exactly.
You have been listening to New York Times bestselling author Irene Spencer. Thank you so much, Irene.
Thank you.
Please join us for a few words of personal information from a New York Times bestselling author, Irene Spencer.